a time, in a lush and green jungle, where the trees were tall and the flowers bloomed brightly, there lived a clever fox named Fenix. Fenix had sleek, orange fur with a bushy tail that wagged with joy whenever he was excited. He was known throughout the jungle for his wit and cleverness. However, despite his quick mind, Fenix often found himself dreaming of more food, more comforts, and more happiness. One sunny afternoon, Fenix was strolling through the jungle, his nose twitching as he sniffed the sweet scents of nature. As he wandered, he noticed something unusual. A bunch of grapes hung from a vine, high up in a tree. These were not ordinary grapes. They were plump, purple, and glistening in the sunlight. Fenix's eyes sparkled with excitement. He had never seen grapes like these before. Oh, how delicious they must taste, he thought, licking his lips. The grapes hung just out of reach, taunting Fenix. He looked around, hoping to find something that could help him reach them. But the tree was too tall, and the vine where the grapes hung was just beyond his grasp. Well, I may be clever, but I don't think I can fly, Fenix muttered to himself, disappointed but determined. I'll find a way to get those grapes. He first tried jumping. He leaped with all his might, stretching his body to the limits. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't quite reach the grapes. He huffed in frustration, his tail flicking back and forth. But Fenix wasn't one to give up easily. He had a plan. The fox looked around and saw a large tree stump nearby. With a confident smile, he ran over to it and climbed up. Now, he was closer, but still not close enough. His tail swayed, his paws dug into the stump, and his eyes focused on the grapes with all the intensity of a hunter. I'm almost there, he whispered to himself. But as he reached up, his paws brushed the air just below the grapes, and once again, he couldn't grasp them. Fenix's heart sank. The grapes were so close, yet so far away. As he sat on the stump, trying to think of another plan, he noticed a group of animals gathering nearby. A rabbit, a squirrel, a parrot, and a tortoise were all watching him curiously. Fenix smiled at them and tried to hide his frustration. Why are you all looking at me? He asked. The rabbit, who was known for his kindness, hopped closer. We were just wondering if you needed help, Fenix. You've been at it for quite a while. I can get these grapes myself, Fenix said confidently, puffing out his chest. I'm just thinking of a clever way to reach them. The parrot, perched on a nearby branch, squawked loudly, just let go of the grapes, Fenix. There's no point in trying to reach them if they are out of your grasp. Fenix's ears perked up. What do you mean? He asked, tilting his head. Sometimes, it's better to let go of something that's out of reach, the parrot said. It's not always worth the effort. Fenix narrowed his eyes. I don't give up easily, he said. I'm going to get those grapes, whether they like it or not. The squirrel, who had been chewing on a nut, chuckled. Oh, Fenix, you're so funny. But what if the grapes aren't worth all this effort? Fenix paused. The idea was unsettling. He had been so focused on getting those grapes that he hadn't stopped to think about whether they were truly worth all the trouble. Just then, the tortoise, who was slow but wise, spoke up in his calm voice. You know, Fenix, sometimes when we can't reach something, we think it's the best thing in the world. But when we finally get it, we might realize it wasn't what we expected at all. Fenix looked at the tortoise thoughtfully. What do you mean? Well, the tortoise continued, there's a saying in the jungle, the more you want something, the more it can hurt you when you can't have it. And sometimes, what we think we want isn't as great as it seems. Fenix was quiet for a moment, his tail still and his mind racing. But these grapes are so beautiful, he said softly. I can just imagine how sweet they would taste. I understand, said the tortoise. But remember, Sometimes what we desire the most might not be as perfect as we think. The rabbit hopped around Fenix, offering a different perspective. Why don't you try something else, Fenix? There are plenty of delicious things in the jungle that are within your reach. You don't need to climb that tree for these grapes. The squirrel added, I've got plenty of acorns. Maybe we could share them instead. Fenix sat back on his stump, deep in thought. He realized that the grapes, though beautiful and tempting, might not be the magical treat he had imagined. He had wasted so much energy trying to get something that wasn't even guaranteed to be all it seemed. After a long pause, Fenix looked at the animals gathered around him. His clever mind was working quickly, and he smiled. You know what, everyone, he said, his tail flicking with excitement. You're right. I've spent so much time trying to reach these grapes, but maybe they're not as important as I thought. Maybe they're not even as sweet as my own idea of them. The parrot squawked with a smile, that's the spirit, Fenix. It's always good to let go of things that are not meant for us. Fenix jumped down from the stump and walked away from the vine, his steps light and carefree. As he walked through the jungle, he realized that the jungle had so much more to offer: sweet berries, crunchy leaves, and even a cozy spot under a tree to rest. Sometimes, Fenix thought to himself, the best things in life are those that we already have. He joined the rabbit, squirrel, and tortoise under a big, shady tree. They all laughed and shared their snacks, enjoying each other's company. Fenix had learned an important lesson that day. It wasn't about reaching the unreachable, or striving for things that were out of his grasp. True happiness came from appreciating what was around him. And so, Fenix lived happily in the jungle, surrounded by friends and the beauty of nature. And whenever he passed that tree with the grapes, he smiled, knowing that some things were just not meant to be. After all, sometimes the sweetest things in life were those that didn't require climbing trees or stretching for the sky.